Good evening and welcome everyone. I'm Annie Philbin, the director of the Hammer Museum, and I'm delighted to welcome you to a screening of A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, a film by Ana Lily Amirpour. This screening is the final night of our series, The Contenders, which is a curated exhibition of film organized by the Museum of Modern Art in New York. For the last 7 years, the film curators at MoMA have drawn from the year's film festivals and studio releases to find films that they believe will have lasting historical significance and also stand the test of time. And this was the first time that MoMA shared this series with another institution. So we were very honored to be their partners for the last 2 months, showing these incredible films. And as those of you who have been here over the last 2 months know, we've had really amazing filmmakers in conversation directly following the film. So tonight we're thrilled to have the filmmaker Ana Lily Amirpour with us. And just to tell you a little bit about her, she graduated from UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. And from what I understand, she's been making horror films since she was 12 years old. But A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is her first feature film. And it debuted at last year's Sundance Film Festival and was described as an Iranian vampire spaghetti western. You are all going to have so much fun. This is such a badass film. Since tonight's film pays homage to all things Western, pulpy, and horror, we thought our friend and horror legend Roger Corman was the perfect choice to interview Ana Lily. Corman has directed over 50 films and produced more than 300, including Bucket of Blood, The Wasp Woman, The Little Shop of Horrors, The Last Woman on Earth, Premature Burial, and The Wild Ones, among others. Yeah, he's a legend. So tonight's screening and the Contenders series would not have been possible without the generosity of our sponsors, Tiffany and Company, and also Billy and Audrey Wilder Foundation. And I also want to give special thanks to our media partner, The Hollywood Reporter. So please turn off your cell phones and enjoy the film.
My new favorite film of all times. Please join me in welcoming Ana Lily Amirpour and Roger Corman.
This is a dangerous combination.
I had a number of questions prepared, but as Ana Lily and I were talking in the green room, she referred to her psychedelic experience, and I mentioned that I had a psychedelic experience. So before we get into the meat, as it were, let's take the dessert first. Tell me about your psychedelic experience.
Which one?
Oh. The best.
The best. Yeah, that's a hard thing to say. I think that a psychedelic experience for me is a very useful thing because there's a lot of different substances that do lots of different things, but there's something specific in a psychedelic experience with lysergic diethylamide.
LSD.
That brings you into a state of present, alert awareness that I find very useful and relaxing. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, very briefly, my experience was so good that I was doing it as a dedicated director, making a picture called The Trip in the 1960s, which had some of the great names in that field in the 60s. It starred Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, written by Jack Nicholson before he hit as an actor.
Amazing.
My trip was so good that in the script we had to ask other people about bad trips so it wouldn't be propaganda for LSD.
Oh my gosh.
But coming back to what
Wait, did you do it during directing the movie?
I did it before as
Before.
research. But let us come to what we're here to talk about. Enough of the gossip. Is there any connection to LSD, or your film, I think, is brilliant and accomplished as a film standing on its own. But the fact that it's your first feature film makes it really amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about where you came from and what led you to this film?
Thank you for saying that. That's incredible. It's a weird thing with the films and with the making of stuff, because I do feel like it's all one large amorphous creature that continues to almost like spore, like funguses. Like there was one script that I'd written 11 scripts before this one that had many things that ended up getting used. There's my dad's 57 T-Bird. There's this oil town where I went to high school in a town near Taft, so I knew about this oil town and all those smokestacks and this kind of surreal post-industrial landscape. Is it post-industrial or industrial?
Decayed industrial, possibly.
I think I'm very attracted to ruin porn and this kind of the decay. I don't know. And my dad got a camcorder when I was 12, and I started making. I actually first started emulating, redoing commercials. We did Zestfully Clean.
Did you make a better commercial?
What's that?
Was your commercial better?
I thought it was better, and my parents seemed to love it. Yeah, we did all these things, and so it was like always making skits and putting on. I watched the making of the Thriller video. John Landis had a really cool 20-minute doc. I wore that thing out. I watched it like 7 times every day. And I actually recently saw it again last year after not seeing it for a long time, and I really do feel like that was my first film school. Just Landis, because I was watching him, and he's having so much fun. And I feel like I have a lot of fun. As dark as things are, it's still, filmmaking is like an athletic thing in a way. You're just physically there with all these people, and it's fun. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It partially answered. Did you go to film school?
I did, and then I went to art school first. I studied painting and sculpture. Then I was in a band for a while. And then I had written a short story, and some producer contacted me and said, could you make it into a pilot? And I didn't know what a pilot was, but I said yes. And then I Googled what's a pilot, and there was like Seinfeld, and I could see that it was written like this. And then I manually like tab, 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 tab. Like wrote this really bad pilot. But then I figured out, it was weird that I didn't kind of really connect it. Of course, yeah, you can just write movies and things, and then I just was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to to get my master's somewhere, and I wanted to come to LA. It was a good way to come here, so I went to UCLA, just up the street.
Well, UCLA is obviously one of the great film schools. As a matter of fact, one of my early assistants, Francis Coppola, came out of UCLA and had a pretty good career. So let us hope, and I'm sure you will as well. Now, you mentioned painting and music. I think they are an integral part of this picture. The framing, the composition, the movement of the camera, where you're seeing something which isn't always in movement, although you used a lot of set shots. There's in a pan shot or a dolly shot, you're constantly seeing something different and interesting, and the framing continues all through the shot. I think that probably comes from your background in painting, and the use of music is great, I think. It's everything from blues to rock and roll and everything in between. Can you tell us a little bit about the music in the film?
Sure, I love talking about music. It's the it's one of the best things in life, I think. It's when because music is good in the way that like good sex is good, but you can control it.
Good, it's okay.
You can guarantee it. So that's why it's extra special. Who can explain how you want to, crawl inside a song and live there? It's like a very specific, good, comforting, wonderful thing. And yeah, lots of times when I'm thinking of characters or scenes, music is one of the first things. And sometimes I design everything around. I had all the music before when I was writing the script, and it was like part of the architecture of everything. And whenever a song was played in a scene, we played it on set. Everybody in the cast and crew had the music. It's a cool thing too, because when you do have something that sounds kind of zany, like a Iranian vampire western fairy tale, but then if you give everyone the music, there's a certain ball of energy that you enter. Everyone's in a same space and vibe and rhythm. So I love it. The first assembly of the film was 3 hours and 40 minutes long. I had to amputate some songs.
Amputate is a great word.
It is really. That is how it felt. I felt that things were just like a gangrene, and you know that you got to lose a toe or the whole leg's gonna rot. So I lost the toe today. It was like a little, until you get it to a little potato,
Well, beyond the music, the fact that you were using Taft in the San Joaquin Valley for Iran, did it ever cross your mind that you might go to Iran to shoot the picture, or was part of the point that you would be shooting away from the actual locations?
Definitely never thought of actually shooting this in Iran. That would be like, yeah, if I was on some kind of suicide mission. But I think it's weird because I do think it's a fairy tale, and for me, it's just an Iran of my mind. It's not a film is an opportunity to make your own universe and make your own world. I think that's what's exciting and wonderful about it. So I was aware of it, though. It's like I wanted to make this Iranian fairy tale, an Iranian vampire story. If the world wasn't how it is, maybe it would be an option, and you could go and just do it there and never have to cover up a sign. But the great thing about art is that the limitations are actually the thing that encourage the creativity and push you to new places. So I feel like I wanted to do this thing, and then, okay, well, I can't do it there, but then it became this limitless because I got to really make my own place, make my own rules. We made the money. We reinvented the posters, the street signs. It was like really glorious, like making a world. That's one of the best parts.
Well, now, you created this world, and of course, one of the first thoughts that would come to somebody seeing the film is this comment in any way on Iranian society. Have you been to Iran, or were you thinking of this in terms of what is going on in Iran?
I have been to Iran. I went there for a summer, and I spent a summer there. I think for me, the film is very, very personal. I think the things that happen in the film happen inside me, and they happen in all the places in the world that I've been to, which is loneliness, being misunderstood, wanting to find a connection, feeling isolated. I feel like there's a heaviness that lots of societies wear, and I don't really think it's a geographically specific thing for me. For me, it's a very personal, very, very personal thing. All the characters in the story the way I see them, are isolated and grappling with something that keeps them away from other people and from themselves and from knowing what they want and figuring out how to get that. It's like really existential, personal kind of thing. So, but I feel like those things become universal when you go inside and harvest. And I'm made out of Iranian stuff. And I was also born in Europe, and I was raised here. I lived in Miami, and then I had my puberty in Bakersfield in the desert mall country with Mexican gangs and malls. And, you know, so I'm a stew. I feel like that's one of the things about America, too. We're such a stew. So I feel like the film, in many ways, is very accurate to my personal Iranianness or whatever I am.
Well, I hadn't thought of this question in advance, but when you say the characters are personal, do you identify in any way with the vampire?
I do. I tell you the truth, I don't want to die. And I would like to, in addition to that, live forever.
Not unusual.
So I've been thinking about it for a long time. I read Anne Rice was the thing that got me into vampires, and I also have this one thing, which is a kind of psychedelic thought, but that any thought that we've ever had is somehow exists. There must be vampires. It's like the movie is a mating call to come to me, take me, and please let me join your crew.
Well, to a certain extent, you might say, as a filmmaker, you feed upon the audience, so you could be a symbolic vampire there. Now, in regard to the vampire, the fact that the vampire from Nosferatu, from Dracula on, is almost always portrayed as a man. This was a specific choice, I assume, on your part, that you would go against the traditional view of a vampire.
Yeah. I'm thinking of, well, in The Lost Boys, there was that one cool girl vampire, and she was like the... Zoe Cassavetes made a Kiss of the Damned. She made a vampire. Jarmusch just made those. Tilda Swinton was a vampire.
Now, you've been compared by some people to the early Jarmusch. There's kind of a cool, hip quality to this film that Jarmusch has as well. What would your thoughts be on that?
I'm going to just say that what I really think, which is I'm not a huge fan of Jarmusch. I think it's really funny. I take it as a huge compliment, and I get it because I guess it's in black and white.
You're right, it is.
So that's probably the... But I did love his vampire movie, but I think that that's an aberration from what people usually mean when they are referring to a Jarmusch thing. But yeah, I never... People also brought up Bela Tarr. Yeah, I really love Robert Zemeckis.
Many people do. It's
Yeah.
a brilliant film.
Yeah.
Coming to some of the themes here, the concept of the female vampire wearing, is it pronounced chador?
Chador, yeah, the chador.
Wearing a chador through most of the film, yet being nude for a brief period of time. I don't know exactly what the question is, but does that lead you to any particular train of thought?
Did you say when she was nude for a second?
It seemed to me in the bathtub scene.
Oh, yeah, she was.
See, I remember those things. You may not.
You got to have a little flesh in there somewhere. Yes, she was. Indeed, she was. The glorious nipple. yeah, yeah. I guess that's a fun thing to do. Strip a person in a chador. It's like, who do I most want to strip? No, it's funny because the thing never really had the. I know it has a lot of baggage. It's something associated with a lot of things. That's like a hot button, religious, intense thing. But when I put the thing on, I did feel very. And it's probably because I got to take it off right away. It's not something I have to have on me all the time. But for me, when I put it on, I felt very badass. It has the weight and it moves a certain way, and I just felt like a stingray. And I wanted to be on a skateboard. I just so and then I thought, this is an Iranian vampire, of course. And how has nobody thought of this?
Is that the origin then of the film, putting on the chador and having these feelings?
Yeah, and I just thought, what a brilliant disguise. It's the last person you'd expect, and you know, someone who's got something very big to keep on the DL. You know, she's got a very big secret. It's a nice way to stay underestimated.
Well, the chador would be considered by many people to be a symbol of the repression of women, but it's very interesting that you say it was the exact opposite. It seemed to empower you to put this on.
But I also said I got to take it off right away.
Oh, yes, right.
Which is, I think, the key part. But the chador has a certain, the one that I use in the film, my aunt brought me from Iran, so it's an actual chador like they would have, and it has this weight. It's this velvety, satiny, catches the air in a certain way. It felt like really nice. So, and I did just get on a skateboard, and I was like, oh, I'm a superhero, you know?
Actually, you are, and the picture in that respect is the concept of a female vampire on a skateboard with a chador. Nobody can accuse you of stealing that idea from anybody else.
That's true. No, but I think really, though, like the thing about the chador or any of the things that we do, it could be the bumper stickers on your car, how you organize your house, all the things that the system of how we appear in the world. You know, the truth is that whatever the reason, once you start peeling back the layers, there's very, very strange things inside us people. And oftentimes it contradicts the outside system. So I think that's what I'm really interested in, is that what you see really is never what you get. So,
now, how would you compare the chador, which was worn here, with the open face, whereas what we see sometimes with just the eyes?
I think that's the Saudi Arabian, the burqa they have. I guess it's a little different fashion flavor.
Is there anything more than a fashion flavor there?
No, I mean, that's the one that she has. That's the one that they have in Iran. I never saw I think that's a Saudi Arabian. Am I correct? I don't know if there's anybody who's... Yeah, I've got some nods. Yeah, it's... in Iran, that's the style. This one. Yeah.
No, it is...
You know, on Halloween, I got people sending pictures from Abu Dhabi and stuff dressed as the girl.
Now, that's interesting. Has the picture been shown anywhere in that area?
Yeah, there's a film festival, and not in Iran. As soon as it gets to DVD, I'm sure they'll get it. Black market, they get everything.
Would there be any censorship problems, or could this film just go straight in?
I'm pretty sure there'll be problems.
How was the film? How was the film received at the festival?
The Abu Dhabi,
yes.
They loved it. I think some of the areas like in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Doha and Mumbai showed it. That's obviously not the same, but still, there was a lot of Muslim, kind of young Muslim people, but I think there's a mix of progressive amidst the, like, it's not cut off. You can't watch these movies or listen to this music. Like in Iran, it's against the rules. So, but in Abu Dhabi, they have a film festival where they embrace a lot of pretty modern and progressive films during the festival. They showed the film. I didn't go.
You did not go to the festival?
No, sir, I did not.
Was there a reason for that?
My mom told me, no way. Really, she's like, I think you don't need to go around over there forever.
In retrospect, that would seem unfortunate since the film was received so well there.
Yeah. It's okay.
Now, coming back to the film itself, so you did not think of shooting in Iran. The concept of shooting in Taft in the San Joaquin Valley and so forth was part of the original conception of the film.
Right away, yeah. And the locations for me are almost exactly like the cast. I think of it as important as casting a character. It's like the location is a character. So I spent many months going to Taft and going to oil refineries and going to streets and finding the ditch of dead bodies. What a fortunate stroke of luck that was.
Yes.
But I fell in love with, I think a film is like a ticket to adventure, to a certain thing that you're fascinated by. I feel the same way now. The movie I'm doing now, I'm going to some strange places and meeting the most interesting people I would never be meeting and talking to. I remember this one day shooting in Taft. There was a guy that wandered onto our set, and his teeth were a little bit askew, and he told us that he just shot a jackrabbit and ate it. It was 2014.
Yes, and
the world is a dark fairy tale, really. If you leave any major city and go for an hour, you're going to find some strange stuff. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I've spent a little time in Taft, in those areas. I went to school in Northern California, and we would sometimes drive through Taft.
Which movie?
No, I went to school.
Oh, you went to school?
Yeah, in Northern California.
Oh.
So I drove through Taft. I know
said
the
you went
area.
to school in Taft. I
No.
was like, no way.
No, it was not a plan to stay there. But I think what you caught is a certain amount of desolation there.
Yeah.
The fact that it's so much of an oil town, so much wealth comes out of that town, but so little seems to be in the town. It's a poor town, churning out a great amount of wealth. And I think one of the, I shouldn't say minor, but one of the lesser elements of the film is a comment on disparity in income in society.
I think it's always true, too. There's always this, because I love that about the kind of these prehistoric oil monsters. They're like these creatures that are constantly kind of sucking the earth of this thing that's valuable. And it's just like all this human drama, like ants, continues, but it's like this ongoing thing. No matter where you are, anywhere in the world, there's some bigger system kind of consuming something in a way, and to make things so that we can make more things. It's just that's absolutely something that I feel and see.
Well, to a certain extent, the oil pumping could be vampires
sucking
taking
the blood of the earth. Delicious. Yeah, so that I can drive my car. But yeah, I also found it's true about Taft. It's interesting because Chevron and Arrow own 300 square miles of that land, and it is the highest density oil in California. And if you go out to those oil fields there, it's like unreal. You can't really. It's thousands of these things, and the people that live in the town are working in the oil fields. And then they do a lot of meth and work these crazy graveyard shifts. And yeah, the wealth isn't there, but they've tapped the keg, so to speak.
I thought your use of the pumping of the oil and of the refineries and so forth had a great deal of symbolism in there, particularly in relation to Iran, because their main export is oil as well. So I would assume that you were making a direct reference there.
There might be some suggested something. It's hard, though, because it's like, I don't know, I think, somebody else has an answer.
You can ask a question. If
I'm hard of hearing, so I would never have gotten that anyway, but, yeah, I mean, it's always something. There's always something that keeps a society that societies are built on and that people use and want from other people. I mean, it could be a whole city, an area, and you want that oil, or you want that spice, or you want whatever it is that you want. It can be between people and individuals. There's always this, yeah, I don't know. But it's not, I mean, it's hard for me. I'm not a politician. I'm not campaigning for any. It's just like an observation that I see from an ant's perspective. I'm an ant. I'm not like, I don't know why it is the way it is, but I see the never-ending consumption and function of industry, and I use it. I got to drive my car and go places, and we're part of it. It's like this. I'm an ant. You know?
Well, you're an ant, and you're an artist, and what you're giving us
I'm an arty ant.
An arty ant, okay, an artistic ant. You're giving us, to a large extent, your interpretation and your thoughts about this environment. You went to school there, you're very familiar with it, yet you're Iranian, and seems to me you've put together so many cultures and so many references here. It could be considered to be a Western. It could be a horror story. To a certain extent, it's a romance. I think when we were talking, you talked about it as a fairy tale, which had not occurred to me. It's a very, very complex picture, and you seem to have references to so many things in pop culture or in culture in general. What would your thoughts? Am I reading more into it? I don't think I am. I think it's there.
That sounded really on point. I think it's interesting what people grab onto and see, because I feel like a film ultimately is a mirror for people to see something of themselves. Like, really what you think about a film it's not absolute. It's got to do with you. If you have been certain places and experienced certain things, you're going to interact with it in a certain way, you know. And so really I think it says a lot about the person, maybe more about the person watching than really even me so much. But for me, it was this loneliness, and that's kind of the world that it's encapsulated by and lives inside. But the thing that kind of tethered me down was this loneliness, and kind of how hard it is to have a meaningful connection, you know?
Well, on a connection, I think, and many people think, that the experience of art is partially between the creator and the audience, and each viewer creates their own interpretation of the film. What has been the reaction of audiences to the film?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. I feel like people love the music, which gives me a sense of peace unmatched by anything else, really. When someone's Shazamming during the disco ball scene, I'm just like, yes, you want it. and it's a good feeling. It's a strange thing, because I think when you make things, it's because you do want to show people something, and then it's interesting because sometimes when you do and you think it's going to make you closer to people, ultimately actually doesn't, which is a weird thing. The film released in November in theaters, so it's fairly recent. It's January now. It's been a couple months. It's done really well, and people seem to like it and want the soundtrack. And I get to make my next film in April, which is really... Because the film that you made, this is like 2 years ago I was shooting it. It's like someone I was in love with, but am no longer. So I can honestly say I loved every second, but it's, like trying to recollect someone you were in love with a long time ago. It's like a surreal, abstract kind of thing.
Well, sometimes you move from love to love. Can you tell us something about your next film?
It's called The Bad Batch, and it's in color, and it's in English.
These are major changes.
Yeah, and it's set in a wasteland desert in Texas, where some of the rejects of society have been sent. And in this desert, some of the people just trying to survive have turned to cannibalism. So it's a love story.
I wouldn't think it would be anything else. Now, would you find any connection between vampirism and cannibalism? Is there anything in your mind that puts the two together?
It's like this is your life right now. Like I'm having like epiphanies about, yes. It eats you alive. It sucks you dry. It takes everything from you. But you'll give it if given the opportunity, right? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It depends. There's definitely a cannibal vampire parallel.
You're clearly creating two new genres as you go along here.
I think cannibals are sexy.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but let me consider that, and if you believe it, I'll go along with that. As we come to the end, Ana Lily, would there be anything you'd like to say to the audience? Anything?
It's such a treat to get to sit here and speak with you, and I just want to know, did you really shoot Little Shop of Horrors in 2 days and 1 night?
I did, but it was a little tricky.
On film?
On film, but at that time, Screen Actors Guild had a rule as to how much you got paid for each day and what a weekly rate was. And I realized that I could hire actors on a weekly rate for the same amount of money as 3 days of a daily rate. So we rehearsed 3 days, and then we were able to shoot with everything choreographed in 2 days, and then went out one evening. So when I was finished, Bob Town, who's gone on to be an Academy Award winning screenwriter, said to me, "Roger, you must remember, making a film is not a horse race. It's not how fast you go." But let me ask you, what sort of schedule did you have on this film? Yes.
It was 24 days, but it was actually 22, I think, principal, and 2 days of second unit. 22.
Now, how much preparation, a lot of directors work very heavily from storyboard.
Yeah.
Others like to improvise as they go along. What was your thinking in that process?
I'm pretty OCD about constructing the spaces, what the sets are going to look like. I do many, many trips to the locations, shoot camera tests in every location, every exterior, interior, so I know what things are going to look like. I do storyboard. I like to go in there with because you do have once it's going, it's like this rocket ship that you just got to keep up with. And I feel like, and also the thing is, a script gets, it's like you put a stick of dynamite in it, and it's like making a film is like if I take this glass and shatter it into 1,000 pieces, and then I got to glue it back together and make sure the water doesn't drip out, you know, like. And I'm the only one who knows what every piece is, you know, when we're there. So I feel like it's really my job to not waste anybody's time and really at least have the bare, just have the, you know, have the line, see the finish line and keep going. And so, but of course things change. I mean, the door doesn't open on the roof of the building that you're on 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to figure something out, or wonderful things happen, like a train goes by and you're like, shit, forget how I wrote the scene, like let's end it with the train, and you get one shot and go, 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 go. And then, because she had to outrun the train, outwalk the train, and we were very close to this train, and you don't know how fast a human has to walk to outrun a train, you know, but it worked, and I like passed out. I was so happy.
Well, I think the result shows that, because the preparation indicates the framing is really so perfect and so beautiful that you couldn't particularly improvise framing such as that. Yet, as you say, everybody I know who does that much preparation is also aware of the fact that you're going to vary from your preparation a little bit as, say, a train comes by or something happens, or the door doesn't open and you say, come through the window or something. You must modify a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the magic. It's the fun of throwing yourself into the moment. And it's raining. Okay, well then it's going to be raining, and it's even cooler because now it's raining. You know, like all the stuff that, and rehearsals. I rehearse a lot with the actors. So we, you know, the whole scene with the street lights. It's like we did that many times in my yard, and I was like, "There's going to be a street light," and so it was never. You know what I mean? Like everything was blocked out and planned out, so everyone kind of knew. And
now, during the rehearsals, as both the writer and the director, did you stay with the script, or did you allow a certain amount of improvisation and movement in and around the script?
I think I wouldn't call it improvisation, because I don't think I'm particularly going for this kind of naturalistic, talky kind of thing. I feel like it's almost like another dimension, like a moment, like a living kind of painting with all these things that sometimes they don't even know that there's going to be sound design in a certain way or stuff. So it's like, I wouldn't call it improvisation as far as like the lines and stuff, but when you do lots of rehearsals, then you can make those adjustments. And when you are the writer, when you're on set, if something seems awkward, you can just say, well, don't say that. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine not being a writer and director, because I feel like the writing is the heart of everything, knowing what the story is that you want to tell. I'm hard of hearing too, so I don't think I need to hear as much talking.
Theoretically, we're working in a visual medium.
Yeah.
Ana Lily, I must congratulate you.
Thank you.
You've done brilliant work, and I think you've given the audience some great insight into the filmmaking process. All I can say again is I congratulate you on really the brilliance of this effort.
Thank you.
And I'm certain it will continue for your next film and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you.